Welcome back to Yehoshua's Daf Yomi Shiur, where the Daf continues daily until the complete revelation of Mashiach ben David, Messiah the son of David. We're holding now a few lines into 93b. So we're on 93b with the words Amar Le or Yochanan. We're in a very interesting, let's just say, sugya about eating certain parts of the animal which are kind of, I don't know, I guess I would say weird to talk about. But it reminded me of a show, maybe some of you have seen this show back a long time ago, where they challenged people to eat weird stuff. Anyway, so they're talking about the, let's just continue. Amar le Rabbi Yochanan Rav Shimon bar Abba Hani bei cheshiloto sharion v'yatlotecho mishum yaltito ishtoirasi becho. Rabbi Yochanan said to Rav Shimon bar Abba, the crushed balls, they're talking about crushed balls of a bull, are permitted for consumption. They're handling with eating crushed balls. Don't blame me. I'm the messenger. I'm just reading this thing, okay? I made a thing to read the Talmud. I'm reading how much I'll be allowed to read. But that's the goal. How much Hashem will allow me to read. I'm saying this is my tafkid. So I got to read the parts. Nothing left out. This is anyway. Rabbi Yochanan said to Rav Shimon bar Abba, these crushed balls are permitted for consumption, but you should not eat them due to the dictum, and do not forsake the Torah of your mother. Proverbs 1:8. Since Rav Shimon bar Abba was from Babylonia, where it was customary to be stringent, it was prohibited for him to eat crushed balls, even when he was in Eretz Yisrael. As if you have to be prohibited from eating it. I'll have to hold myself back from eating crushed balls. Alright. Who knows? You never know, man. Maybe in those days there was a hunger or whatever. They had to eat whatever they could get. And if that's all they had, that's it. Amar Ravashi Hani Boin de Ganyo Antilo Signor Min Sharion Belo Klipa Mikan Reilach Yezayan Asurin Pino Zayan Sharion Menayadinan Isle Behu Shoyoke Sumake Asiron Lesbehu Shoyaki Sumake Sharion. The Gemara cites other halachot related to testes. Mar Ravashi said, with regard to the testes of goats, from the time the goat is born until the goat is 30 days old, its balls are permitted without peeling off the membrane that encloses them. Nice! I'll remember that for the next time, that situation arises. Because they are presumed not to contain blood. From this point forward, if they contain semen, they are forbidden. But if they do not contain semen, they are permitted. The Gemara asks, how can we know whether How can we know whether or not they contain semen? But do the balls really contain semen at all? They don't. The semen is it's not even scientifically correct. The semen's in the prostate gland. The balls just contribute to the spermatozoids. Right? Isn't that science? The balls don't contain the semen. I'm sorry, that's not scientifically correct. At least not from what I remember learning. However, let's continue. How can we know whether or not they contain semen? The Gemara answers, if they have red streaks in them, they are forbidden. If they do not have red streaks in them, they are permitted. The Gemara quotes a related discussion pertaining to three cases. With regard to raw meat that is eaten without being salted, testes of an animal, and the large veins of the neck, Ravach and Ravina disagree about the halacha. The Gemara points out in all of their disputes with regard to other realms of the Torah, whether it is not clear which of them holds which opinion, The opinion of Ravina is lenient, and the opinion of Acha is stringent, and the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Ravina to be lenient. This applies to all the other disputes except for these three, in which Rav Acha is lenient and Ravina is stringent, and the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Acha to be lenient. Tzedem amsik chidcha malache afilu lekadera nami shapir domi talyon nami bishapuda the ivdama agubre pligi Rav Acha vrino chadama mishov shuavile chadama mitzamas samsile v'chen bei v'chen mezrike. The Gemara explains the regard to raw meat that became red from the blood inside it. If one cut it and salted it, it is permitted to cook it in a pot, because the salt removes the blood from the meat. It is also permitted if one hung it on a spit in order to roast it, because the blood is drawn out by the heat of the fire. With regard to a case where one placed it on coals, Rav Acha and Ravina disagree about the halacha. One says that the coals draw out the blood from the meat, and one says that the coals cause the meat to shrivel and harden, trapping the blood inside. And similarly, Ravina and Rav Acha disagree with regard to testes placed on coals, and similarly with regard to large veins of the neck that were placed, of the neck that were placed on coals. How much more of this we have? Hold on. Okay. Reish bekiv so is wir besser schita. Da im dem Schreats dodin mikaplin mikpakapi asir oisvei ani khoirai da bei mi day sharavi yasir. Apropos, raw meat placed on coals, the Gemara discusses a related topic. In the case where one wants to remove the hair from the head of an animal by placing it in hot ashes, if one places it with the neck down so the fat down so that the location of the slaughter is in the ashes, the blood is drawn out by the heat and the meat is permitted. But if one places the head in the ashes on one of its sides, the blood congeals inside the head and cannot flow out, and therefore the head is forbidden for consumption. In the case where one placed the head down on its nostrils, if he inserted something into the nostrils to keep them open and to allow the blood to flow out, the meat is permitted, but if he did not do so, it is forbidden. Ikedamri anchire v'abeta shchita deiv atzdodin idatz be midei shari v'ila asir. There are those who say if the head was placed on its nostrils or on the location of the slaughter, the blood is drawn out and the meat is permitted. If he placed it on one of its sides, then if he inserted something into it in order to allow the blood to flow out, it is permitted. If not, it is forbidden. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Shnei Gidin Hein Hapanimi Samuch Le'etzem Asur V'chayven Olav Chitzon Samuch Lebasor Asur V'ein Chayovin Olav. The Gemara returns to the prohibition of eating the sciatic nerve. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says there are two nerves included in the prohibition of the sciatic nerve. The inner nerve, which is next to the bone, is forbidden by Torah law, and one is liable to be flogged for eating it. And the outer nerve, which is next to the flesh, is forbidden by rabbinic law, and therefore one is not liable to be flogged for eating it. Maybe they would give him rabbinical lashes for disobeying the words of the Rabbonon. Maybe it's possible, we never know. Betanya penimi samoch lebaso. Amar Rav Acha, Amar Rav Kano, iklode miklid. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in a Braita that the inner nerve, which is forbidden by Torah law, is next to the flesh? The Gemara answers, Rav Acha said, the Rav Kahana said, the inner nerve is next to the bone, but it bores into the flesh as well. V'hatanya chitzon asamuch le'etzem, Amar Rav Yehuda hechi depari tabochi. The Gemara challenges, but isn't it time to bright to the outer nerve is next to the bone? The Gemara answers, Rav Yehuda said, this is referring to the spot where the butchers cut the leg open and reveal the nerve, and at that point in the leg, the outer nerve is closest to the bone. Itmar. Tabach shenimtza chelev acharov. Rav Yehuda Amar b'chish se'oira Rabbi Yochanan Amar b'chizayis. It was stated with regard to a butcher who removed the forbidden fats of the animal, and yet forbidden fat was found after he completed his work. Rav Yehuda says that the butcher is held liable if there is forbidden fat remaining that is the size of a barley grain. Rav Yochanan says that the butcher is held liable only if there is forbidden fat remaining that is the size of an olive bulb. Amar Rav Papa v'lo pligi kan bihalkoso kan li'abro. Rav Papa said Rav Yehuda and Rav Yochanan are referring to two different levels of liability, and they do not disagree. Here, when Rav Yochanan said he is liable only if there is an olive bulb of forbidden fat remaining, he was referring to flogging him. There, when Rav Yehuda said he is liable even if he leaves forbidden the fat the size of a barley grain, he was referring to removing him from his position as a butcher. Amar Marzutra kesoira makom echad kezayis afilu b'shnayim ub'shlosha mikomos v'hilchasa lehalokoso bekezayis liabro becheseoira. Marzutra said an alternative explanation: if the butcher left forbidden fat the size of a barley grain in one place, he is liable. And if he left forbidden fat the size of an olive bulb, he is liable even if it is spread out in 2 or 3 places. The Gemara concludes, and the halacha is, that with regard to flogging him, the butcher is liable only if he left forbidden fat the size of an olive bulb. With regard to removing him, the butcher is liable even if he left forbidden fat the size of a barley grain. The Mishnah stated in 89b, butchers are not deemed credible to say that the sciatic nerve was removed. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. And the rabbis say they are deemed credible about the sciatic nerve. Rabbi Chia bar Abba says, that Rabbi Yochanan says, the rabbis initially held that butchers are not deemed credible about the sciatic nerve, and subsequently they retracted and said that butchers are deemed credible in this regard. Amar Nachman, ikashur dari, mikor davi sabrile. Rabbi Meir, Nachman said to him, have the latter generations improved such that butchers are more reliable than they were in earlier generations? There were answers initially when the rabbis held, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir, that one must scrape around the flesh in order to remove the roots of the sciatic nerve. Butchers were not deemed credible due to the exertion involved in this process. But later the rabbis held, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, that it is unnecessary to scrape around the flesh. Consequently, removing the sciatic nerve is not especially arduous, and butchers are deemed credible to say that they removed it. Amar There are those who teach this discussion with regard to the latter clause of the Mishnah as follows, and the rabbis say they are deemed credible about the sciatic nerve and about the forbidden fat. Rabbi Chia bar Abba said that Rabbi Yochanan said they subsequently retracted this opinion and said that butchers are not deemed credible. Rav Nachman says, today the butchers are deemed credible. Akashur dori mikara savura Rabbi Yehuda hadar savura Rabbi Meir. The Gemara asks, have the latter generations improved such that butchers are more reliable than they were in earlier generations? The Gemara answers, initially they held that the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, that one is not required to scrape around the flesh to remove the roots of the sciatic nerve, and therefore butchers were deemed credible to say that they removed it. The rabbis then reversed their opinion and held that the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir that one is required to scrape around the flesh. As long as the butchers remembered the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda and did not scrape around the flesh to remove the roots of the sciatic nerve, they were not deemed credible to say that they removed it. But now that they have forgotten the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda and have grown accustomed to scraping around the flesh to remove the roots of the sciatic nerve, they are deemed credible. The Mishnah teaches that the rabbis maintain that butchers are deemed credible about the sciatic nerve and about the forbidden fat. The Gemara asks, who mentioned anything about forbidden fat? The topic of discussion in the Mishnah to this point is the sciatic nerve not forbidden fat. Why do the rabbis mention forbidden fat? The Gemara answers, this is what the Mishnah is saying. The butchers are not deemed credible about the sciatic nerve or about the forbidden fat. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. But the rabbis say the butchers are deemed credible about the sciatic nerve and about the forbidden fat. This concludes the Talmud with this portion, and now we continue on with the Mishnah. Zok the Heilige Mishnah, Shoyleach Odom. One second, I'll put on pause for just a second. Sekunda, Shmuel Kunda, the blessed memory. Sekunda, it's like Shmuel Kunda. I met it once, I think, Camp Arm, many years ago. Okay, where were we? We were starting the new Mishnah at the bottom of 93b. Yeah? Zog the Heilige Mishnah, Sholech Odom Yerech, Legoi, Shegid Anoshe Besoicha Mipnei Shemikoymo Nikar. That's all Mishnah. It's all of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words. 10-word Mishnah. I might have seen smaller, but this is a pretty small Mishnah. Although it is prohibited for Jews to eat the sciatic nerve, a Jewish person may send the thigh of an animal to a non-Yehudi, to a Gentile, with the sciatic nerve in it, without concern that the non-Yehudi will then sell the thigh to a Yehudi, and the Yehudi will eat the sciatic nerve. This leniency is due to the fact that the place of the sciatic nerve is conspicuous in the thigh. Alright? And now, that's the whole Mishnah, and now we're saying the Gemara. The Gemara says, Shleimo in, chatucha lo, b'mayes ginon, ilem mekom machrizin. Okay, the Gemara says, the Mishnah statement that a Jew may send a thigh to a Gentile indicates that if it is whole, yes, a Jew may send it to a Gentile. But if the thigh has been cut, a Jew may not send it to a Gentile. The Gemara asks, what are we dealing with? If we say that the Mishnah is referring to a place where all the butchers are Jewish, but they do not announce publicly when they have sold to a Gentile an animal that turns out to have a wound that will cause it to die within 12 months, then it is prohibited for Jews to purchase any meat from Gentiles due to the possibility that it was from an animal that was a treifa. Alright, we'll stop here. It's the end of 93b.